I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and this is the Pipebomb. No Mercy is shaping up to be WrestleMania come early, with the world's most furious white sausage set to defend the Universal Championship against 8 bears crammed into a Rambo costume. Not only that, but it's polarizing bowl, with John Cena set to take on a Roman Reigns. Now, while Brock and Braun has had a physical build so far, the build for Reigns-Cena has been more intriguing, fueled entirely by the two most talked about wrestlers in the world talking about each other in promos steeped in insider verbiage and savage AF shoot observations. As much as the big dog and the face that runs the place dissecting each other conceptually is making for one of the most curious and almost avant-garde feuds in a while, WWE is once again returning to the concept of worked shoots, and doing so runs the risk of booking themselves into a very damaging corner. First, let's talk about shooting, and not the type that makes Vince McMahon physically piss himself on global television. Do you remember that? That was actually really disturbing looking back. For the uninitiated, in wrestling parlance, a shoot is anything that's unscripted, whether it's offense, a promo, anything that isn't on the format, that doesn't take place behind the protective veil of kayfabe. There are two types of shoots: true unworked shoots, which are completely unplanned, completely real, and terribly dangerous, and work shoots, where it's the decision of management to lift wrestling's skirt and use the illicit thrill of briefly exposing its undercarriage to raise the temperature of an angle. Most of the shoots that you're thinking about right now, they're work shoots because, well, you can remember them. They've been engineered to be memorable, whereas real shoots tend not to be publicized for reasons you'll come to understand. With wrestling being a game of tricks and shadows, it's difficult to know what's real and what isn't. Famous shoots over the years include Koji Katao refusing to lose against John Earthquake Tenter and actually trying to poke his eyes out in a wrestling ring, Sting having to pin Jeff Hardy hard way after he showed up their TNA Victory Road match off his bean, and Antonio Inoki getting very cross with the great Antonio no-selling him and starting to repeatedly kick him in the head as hard as he could. In WWE, there have been a number of true shoots in the past: Perry Saturn going nuts on jobber Mike Bell on an episode of WWF Metal, Daniel Puder legit UFC and Kurt Angle on SmackDown, and of course, our favourite when JBL took liberties with the Blue Meanie's face during a skirmish on ECW One Night Stand 2005. The trend we see emerging is that, generally speaking, shoots are very, very, very bad things that expose wrestling's inherent dangers and also reveal the shooters as unprofessional and dangerous assholes. Considering that the wrestling industry is essentially built on mutual trust between very strong stuntmen, when it gets real, it tends to get buried pretty quickly, with one giant exception, and it's this exception that's led to the work shoot becoming a recurring weapon in WWE's storytelling arsenal. The Montreal Screwjob changed wrestling in a number of ways. Not only did it provide the most publicized glimpse of backstage life in any promotion to that point, it outed Vince McMahon as the owner of the company, Patterson and Briscoe as his agents and producers, but eventually turned the tide of the Monday Night Wars. Vince became the single most attested asshole in wrestling for screwing beloved Brett, and when Steve Austin made it his life aim to shit on Vince's dreams, the WWF's ratings were galvanized like never before. Since then, in an attempt to replicate the industry's shaking realness of the Screwjob, WWE have created a number of work shoots, with Reigns and Cena's use of internet buzzwords like protected and burial being only the most recent. While those with a short memory credit CM Punk's infamous pipe bomb as kicking off the reality era, in actuality, WWE has been doing it for decades. In fact, they were doing it before the Screwjob, with WWF using Jake the Snake Roberts' real-life alcoholism as an angle with Jerry Lawler in 1996, and ECW's short-lived invasion of the WWF in early 1997, but neither were as impactful as Montreal. Since the Screwjob, notable work shoots include Paul Heyman mouthing off on WWE during One Night Stand, the Edge, Lita, Matt Hardy real-life love triangle getting Matt fired for, quote, invading WWE, Joey Styles quitting Raw and delivering a scathing monologue on sports entertainment, CM Punk referencing Jeff Hardy's substance abuse issues, CM Punk dropping the pipe bomb, CM Punk and Triple H calling each other Phil and Paul. After Punk's P-bomb, whole storylines became infused with reality, as SummerSlam 2013 to WrestleMania 30 ended up being all about Daniel Bryan's real and work struggles to be taken credibly as a main eventer by, quotes, management. Nowadays, Miz's entire gimmick has become the spiritual successor to Punk's, cutting snarky promos left, right and center about Total Bellas, working styles, etc., etc. All of this leads to Roman Reigns and John Cena calling each other names. For any who haven't seen the much hyped promos, here are the choicest cuts. Roman Reigns calls Cena a part-time fake-ass bitch. Roman says that Cena buried younger talent. Cena takes it even further, talking about heel turns, calling Roman corporately created. protected, that he still has to learn how to do a promo. See ya, fourth wall. And in genuinely one of the most cutting and depressing lines he's ever said, the reason I'm still here is because you can't do your job. Per the great Ron Simmons, damn. Now, let's talk about the positives first. Unlike so much of modern WWE with its celebrity courting and goofy, illegitimate son soap operatics, this feels like an angle written for us, you and me, the opinionated wrestling fans, working ourselves into a giddy froth because they're using no-no internet terms like golden shovel, words that have been exclusive to our angry and slightly smelly treehouse of discontent. It's water cooler television. Hell, I'm dedicating a pipe bomb to it. That's solid TV. It's also a moment of surprising grandeur from WWE. It's perhaps because they know they're rushing this feud onto No Mercy rather than the Big Four, but the collision of Roman Reigns and John Cena is a big deal. Roman Reigns' whole fan reaction is in part due to him being John Cena all over again, so the first time ever singles match on pay-per-view between the two should have a Crisis of Infinite Earths continuity-busting meta-ness to it. It's an incredibly appropriate tone. Bravo to WWE for taking the risk. However, let's talk about what does in fact make it a risk, starting with the most obvious. In the last few years, WWE have gone to the well of fourth wall baiting many times, and the simple maxim of storytelling is the more you use a certain tactic, the less effective it is. Case in point, within 2 weeks, on the same SmackDown, in fact, Dolph Ziggler dissected what the fans liken their superstars to limp effect, and Kevin Owens mentioned Shane's helicopter crash. Now, while that was still good, it was less effective than it could have been had the promo taken place last month. The more that WWE uses real life, the more it becomes part of their brand, and the more it becomes an accepted part of the theatre, and therefore less shocking, especially when the barbs are obviously scripted, like in Reigns and Cena's promo. Not to unduly knock Reigns, he's doing fine, but he's still not quite at the stage where it sounds like he's making it up as he goes. Styles, Punk, Miz, they all made their rants sound real, but Reigns, and to a lesser extent Cena with his weirdly super affected hip-hop voice, this very much feels like a WWE production, even if the actual content of the promos is still relatively daring. Second issue, Jesus Christ, Roman Reigns better win at No Mercy, because if he doesn't, oh no. If he loses, then Cena's proclamation of part-time, I can do this better than you ever could full-time, that actual real life statement, that has the potential of completely destroying Roman Reigns' main event stature. Some of you may think good to that, but no, trust me, Reigns does actually feel big right now, and one fewer big main eventer in a promotion is never a good thing, ever. The final risk is an unlikely one, but also potentially the most significant, and to fully explain it, I'll need to take you back to WCW in 1999. For those of you who know what happened that year, you're most likely screaming, please no, don't take me back there, please, I'm so much happier here. WCW in 1999 was when the era of wrestling nihilism started, where kayfabe was murdered to such a gruesome extent that it permanently jaded its audience to the point where nothing could ever possibly matter ever again. Fun! In October, Vince Russo and Ed Ferraro, who'd been fundamental to the booking of the Attitude Era, had been hired to turn WCW's ailing fortunes around. With the success of the edgy, realistic NWO and the peek behind the curtain stuff of the Attitude Era, Russo decided to not only shatter the fourth wall, but bury it in a shallow grave and mail a bottle of his own piss to the wall's widow. In a reality-warping match on October 18th's Nitro between Buff Bagwell and La Parka, the man with the staff looked pissed on his way to the ring before gesturing for La Parka to kick him in the head. After he lost to the masked luchador, Buff nipped up, took a headset and asked the camera, "Did I do a good job for you?" That is the worst thing in the world. Breaking the fourth wall is fine in isolated doses, but there's a reason that WWE have been very careful with how they do it. Punk's pipe bomb, Matt Hardy's invasion, Phil and Paul having a chat, all these things were to lead to wrestling matches. They chipped away at the artifice of dudes playing characters for the camera, sure, but all of them protected the sanctity of the match itself. All of them trod the very fine line between blur and reality, but also making it clear that when the bell rang, all of them were actually trying to win a f***ing wrestling match. What Russo did in WCW was make the wrestling itself worthless, and that can never happen. Now, are John Cena and Roman Reigns doing that with their promos? Not anywhere near the same extent, but when Reigns talks about Cena burying talent, when Cena mentions that Reigns is protected, that is inching closer towards outwardly stating that the outcomes of wrestling matches are predetermined, that since Reigns and Cena's wins and losses have been by corporate design, that the actual wrestling itself is merely a collection of incidences leading to a determined narrative strategy. Now, I'm making a leap or two, sure, but this has happened before It should not happen again, and when the fourth wall breaks are in the hands of TV industry scriptwriters rather than left as seasoned microphone veterans, the balance is more precarious than ever. Now, I don't want it to seem like I'm pissing on people's chips here, because Cena and Reigns, it's not there yet, not to WCW standards by any means, and them competing to see who can commit gimmick murder the fastest is bloody entertaining television for all the reasons mentioned above. Also, the match itself should be fantastic, provided that WWE treat the storytelling weapon of alluding to reality as a scalpel and not a sledgehammer. Are WWE capable of doing that? Yes. Will they? Who knows, but you'll know we're in trouble when John Cena and Roman Reigns start listing their 5 moves of doom and saying, you'll have to hit me with 5 AAs because I'm a big dog and that's what the road agents would prefer in order to protect me in the loss, as you've pointed out before, John Felix Anthony Cena. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and that was the Pipe Bomb.